The gap between the rich and the poor does not decrease. Students have the option to live in college residences or apartments. We have 3 distinctive libraries which are nationally acclaimed. Parking permits can be collected through the Student Service Office. Please don't forget to check your email for the updates of the week. Tuesday's sessions will last for approximately 2 hours. We should focus on innovation, and if we don't, we are bound to lose out. Many industries have moved to the countryside where manufacturing costs are lower. Everyone should get access to art galleries no matter where they live. Until you complete the form, you cannot attend. There is too much information on this topic.
So this is a kind of object that you're probably all familiar with when you hear the term robot, but I'm going to show you the very, very first robots. These were the very first robots. They were characters in a play in the 1920s called Rossum's Universal Robots. And the play was written by a Czech writer called Karel Čapek. And basically, these robots, people tend to think of robots as kind of cute, cuddly toys or, Hollywood depictions kind of devoid of politics. But the first robots were actually created and imagined in a time of absolute political turmoil. You just had the First World War, finished. That had a devastating impact across Europe. And so people were kind of reflecting on what does it mean to be human, what makes us human, those kind of questions. And this kind of context is what inspired Čapek to kind of write this play. And interestingly, these robots being human, they are actually in the play assembled on a production line, a bit like the Ford manufacturing production line. So even though they are human, they are assembled, and these robots are designed to labor, and that is their primary purpose in society.
We're thinking about this, and we're trying to say, all right, well, let's file a patent on this clicker. If I were to go to the patent office and say, all right, I want a patent on a clicker, period. The patent office would just laugh. The clickers have been around for a while, presentation clickers have been around for a while, and so there'd be a 0% chance that we would actually get that. If we were to somehow convince the patent office that we should be able to get a patent on a clicker, period, it would, however, be incredibly valuable. Every single clicker that was made after this point would infringe. And when it infringes, maybe we take $1 or $2 each. That would add up to be a decent amount of money. On the other end of the spectrum, let's go to the million-word version. I go to the patent office and I say, I want a patent on this exact thing. And those million words describe every single radius, every single material, every single thing about this. And the patent office says, yeah, we've never seen that before. Go ahead and take it. Almost 100% chance of getting that patent. But the value of that patent would be close to 0.
In 1943, what became known as the Green Revolution began when Mexico, unable to feed its growing population, shouted for help. Within a few years, the Ford and Rockefeller Foundations founded the International Rice Research Institute in Asia, and by 1962, a new strain of rice called IR8 was feeding people all over the world. IR8 was the first really big modified crop to make a real impact on world hunger. In 1962, the technology did not yet exist to directly manipulate the genes of plants, and so IR8 was created by carefully crossing existing varieties, selecting the best from each generation, further modifying them, and finally finding the best. Here is the power of modified crops. IR8, with no fertilizer, straight out of the box, produced 5 times the yield of traditional rice varieties. In optimal conditions with nitrogen, it produced 10 times the yield of traditional varieties. By 1980, IR36 resisted pests and grew fast enough to allow 2 crops a year instead of just 1, doubling the yield. And by 1990, using more advanced genetic manipulation techniques, IR72 was outperforming even IR36. The Green Revolution saw worldwide crop yields explode from 1960 through 2000.
At the top, you would have a king. Now, the king would rule over a kingdom. Now, this is not so easy to govern, especially during the Middle Ages, and the king might owe many people things, especially people who helped the king come to power, helped him depose the previous king or to conquer this land. And so in exchange for that, and to help govern, he might grant land or fiefs to other people. And the key currency in the Middle Ages under the feudal system is land, and land in exchange for loyalty and service. So this whole thing is a kingdom. Now right over here, this is a duchy. And a duchy will be controlled by a duke. I guess they didn't call it duchy because that just doesn't sound as serious. So the king might grant a duchy to a duke, and in exchange, the duke would provide loyalty, pledge their fealty. If the kingdom is threatened, the duke will fight alongside the king, would provide their own troops. If the king wants to go conquer other territories, same thing. And also provide the king with taxes, which might be in the form of coinage, depending on what time and region we are in the Middle Ages, or it might be in the form of a percentage of the agricultural production from this duchy.
What is the opposite of dangerous? What is the opposite of dangerous? Answer, safe. We call numbers like 1, 3, 5 odd numbers, then what do we call numbers like 2, 4, 6? We call numbers like 1, 3, 5 odd numbers, then what do we call numbers like 2, 4, 6? Answer, even numbers. What do we call 1,000 years? What do we call 1,000 years? Answer, millennium. What do we call a dream that is very frightening or unpleasant? What do we call a dream that is very frightening or unpleasant? Answer, nightmare. What is the joint connecting the foot to the leg? What is the joint connecting the foot to the leg? Answer, ankle. What do we call people who help others get insurance? What do we call people who help others get insurance? Answer, insurance agents or insurance brokers. Which button do we use to remove something from computer? Which button do we use to remove something from computer? Answer, delete. What do you call a picture or design permanently on your skin made with a needle and ink? What do you call a picture or design permanently on your skin made with a needle and ink? Answer, tattoo. What is the opposite of majority? What is the opposite of majority? Answer, minority. In the kitchen, what do you call the sturdy base you cut raw materials on? In the kitchen, what do you call the sturdy base you cut raw materials on? Answer, cutting board or chopping block. What do we call a person or an independent organization that inspects a company? What do we call a person or an independent organization that inspects a company? Answer, auditor. The global collapse of frogs and other amphibians due to the amphibian chytrid fungus exacerbated malaria outbreaks in Costa Rica and Panama during the 1990s and 2000s, according to new research. The findings provide the first evidence that amphibian population declines have directly affected human health and show how preserving biodiversity can benefit humans as well as local ecosystems. It is precisely in observing the intertwinings of success and failure that Chasing the Flame makes its greatest mark. With piercing insight and relentless logic, it reveals the pitfalls of international politics and details an intricate struggle between individual and institution. It haunts us with the poignant truth that even a great man can do only so much to reinvent the world. The most important issue is concerned with the problem of funding. Social services receive different donations or grants from the government. However, these sums are not sufficient for the solution of all problems. The second most important issue consists in the huge spending. The money social services achieve is not enough for normal functioning. The third problem, affecting human services, is the lack of skilled and experienced employees. Scientists have recommended actions the government of Madagascar's recently elected president, Andry Rajoelina, should take to turn around the precipitous decline of biodiversity and help put Madagascar on a trajectory towards sustainable growth. Madagascar's protected areas, some of the most important for biodiversity in the world, have suffered terribly in recent years from illegal mining, logging, and collection of threatened species for the pet trade. The disease model remains dominant in the U.S. because of its stakeholders. First, the rehab industry, worth an estimated $35 billion per year, uses the disease nomenclature in a vast majority of its ads and slogans. Despite consistently low success rates, that's not likely to stop because it pulls in the cash. Second, as long as addiction is labeled a disease, medical insurance providers can be required to pay for it. The gap between the rich and the poor does not decrease. Students have the option to live in college residences or apartments. We have 3 distinctive libraries which are nationally acclaimed. Parking permits can be collected through the Student Service Office. Please don't forget to check your email for the updates of the week. Tuesday's sessions will last for approximately 2 hours. We should focus on innovation, and if we don't, we are bound to lose out. Many industries have moved to the countryside where manufacturing costs are lower. Everyone should get access to art galleries no matter where they live. Until you complete the form, you cannot attend. There is too much information on this topic.